next we have, sorry, I'm getting my documents together. But next we have Mary Phillips, who's going from the National Wildlife Federation, who's going to be introducing the folks on her panel, and they're going to be talking about the National Interagency Native Seeds panel. So thank you. And Mary, go ahead and take it away. You can share your screen if you have slides.
Yeah, I do. Thank you so much. Really excited to be here, and I want to do a big shout out to Morgan and Alexis for taking us through these past 2 days with amazing speakers and great programming. So thank you so much. I am going to share my screens and slides right now and introduce you to our panelists who, if you guys want to come off camera or come on camera, that'd be great. We have Kay Havens today from the Chicago Botanic Garden, Chief Scientist and VP of Science. Very excited to have you here, Kay. And Tim Holtzel, Deputy Director at U.S. Department of Interior, Office of Restoration and Damage Assessment, and Jen Burke, Senior Policy Advisor to Senator Mazie Hirono. So we're very excited to have that. We're going to be talking today about efforts around the National Interagency Native Seed Center, but also the working group of conservation organizations that are working to be part of that and help advocate for that and other native seed related legislation. So I'm going to just do a kind of quick overview of what we're achieving today, and then we'll get into the panel piece. So we're hoping to really help you all learn more about these national efforts that I just mentioned. Also, we're going to have a little update around the National Academy of Science recommendations in this space from Kay, and then really talk about the legislative activity and what you can do locally and in your state to help advance these efforts. So I'm going to do this overview and just a little bit about me and National Wildlife Federation. We are very proud to have sponsored, I think it's our 5th or 6th year that we have been a co-sponsor for the National Native Seed Conference. We're celebrating our 90-year anniversary this year. I'm really, really happy to be here today. I've been working with National Wildlife Federation since 2014. I head up their native plant strategy and our habitats and communities programs. We also have a network of 52 state affiliates that are really powerful in advancing legislation, both in their states and also rallying across the country. And this past year, they did 3 resolutions across our federation to support native seed and habitat. So we really are grateful that we have this amazing network and for their commitment to understanding the importance of increasing native seed and plant supply to ensure a diverse supply of eco-regionally appropriate and pesticide-free native plants. So wanted to do that shout out to all of them. Some may be on this conference. And then this is what I was mentioning. We have a large suite of place-based community resilient habitat programs that we've been running, some of them over 50 years. So that's the other area that I head up. And just looking at this network combined, we just to do this work and engage the people that we do in kind of backyard restoration, community restoration, the need for native seed is tremendous just in our networks alone, plus all the networks we have on this conference today. So this is why this is such a big commitment for National Wildlife Federation. So going back from that background, I wanted to also talk with you, and I'm hoping in the chat, people that are from the Native Seed Supply Working Group could put in the chat if you are on this call today and at the conference. We are conservation groups and a variety of groups from the private sector that have been working to really support the goal of advancing the recommendations from the National Academy of Sciences report. We do a number of objectives around building awareness and education of this legislation. We're coordinating on an advocacy strategy to advance this across all of our participant organizations networks, and we support policymakers directly, as we will see today, and also stress the importance of interagency coordination in this space. So those are some of the high levels of the working group. This is the group that came together in 2023. It's grown since then. We have many other people that we coordinate with too, but these are the people who have been the most active And I want to do a big shout out to Vera Smith of Defenders of Wildlife and Josh Osher of Western Watersheds Project, because there are informal ad hoc co-chairs, I would say. We haven't like designated that formally, but they really have helped spearhead this and continue to help manage this, as well as Stephanie Frischi of the Xerxes Society, who has helped us really do our listserv and do a bunch of other things to keep us going organizationally, I guess, or logistically. So if you're interested in joining this group, reach out to me, your organization. Gloria Tom, who presented earlier today, she helped to convene an intertribal native seed working group at the last conference. She represents that group, and she's also with National Wildlife Federation on this overall working group. So some of these folks you've seen present over the course of this conference, but we are really excited. So I'm representing this group today on this call. I'm going to turn it over to Kay to really talk about where things have kind of come and gone with the National Academy of Seed Sciences report. Kay?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So we were sponsored by Bureau of Land Management to conduct this study under the auspices of the National Academy of Sciences. We actually started in 2019 and produced our final report in 2023. You can see here on the right who was involved in this study, and the statement of tasks to assess the needs for native plant materials in the U.S., assess the native seed supply chain, recommend ways to make it better. And it was supposed to be nationwide, although with a focus on the Western U.S. because of the BLM sponsorship. Next slide. And if I had to boil down our recommendations to one figure, this is the figure. This shows kind of the feedback loop between the necessity of having strong, consistent demand from the biggest seed purchasers in the country, and that's our agencies, and really them getting involved in planning their projects in advance, not accepting substitutions, and providing technical assistance to the private sector. And that will produce a more robust seed industry that benefits everyone. And then the 10 recommendations that came out of this report was interagency leadership, regional partnerships, and so forth. You can read them yourself. But the two are really, let's form a national interagency seed and restoration center and support the formation of eco-regional seed partnerships across the U.S. Next. And this just has the URL where you can download the report if you want to read it in detail.
Great. And Kay, I'm going to share a little bit, just some high-level slides about what the center is about, but I didn't know if you wanted, I mean, it really was in response to those recommendations. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about this a little bit, or I can just go over this.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Thank you.
So 2 years ago at this meeting, then Secretary Deb Haaland announced the formation of the National Interagency Seed and Restoration Center within the Department of Interior. And this was really to coordinate work of the various bureaus within Department of Interior so that policy related to native seed was kind of consistent across all the bureaus. And that we were really trying to send a clear demand signal for the native seed that's needed, as well as support research about the use of native seed, support native seed development and distribution, and how to use that seed in restoration. And there was a location determined for this center at the Federal Center in Denver. And we actually got quite far down the road on doing planning, but right now the money to get that building underway is frozen.
Thank you. So that brings us to this legislation. And one of the things I want to talk about today, and Jen is going to talk more specifically about this. But before we jump into that, I don't know, Tim, if you wanted to add anything else about the center and where it is at this point.
Certainly. So the National Interagency Seed and Restoration Center is meant to bring together the work happening across the Department of the Interior to implement the National Seed Strategy. And as Kay alluded to, the funding for that is currently paused, but we've kept a lot of our momentum going. We're meeting regularly and setting our goals and objectives, identifying our partners that we can work with across the Department of the Interior, so that we maintain our coordination for seed collection, cleaning, storage, and distribution activities that are happening right now. So one key thing that we did achieve since the announcement in 2024 is that at the end of that year, we signed a memorandum of understanding to establish the center's executive steering committee. And that agreement was signed among all of the key players: the Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Reclamation, the National Park Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, USGS, and the newly formed U.S. Wildland Fire Service, as well as my office, the Office of Restoration and Damage Assessment at the department. We haven't yet actually called the executive steering committee to order because we're waiting for that funding to come through. I see that maybe I have a sound issue. I'll figure that out before I respond. Yeah.
Thanks. That's great, Tim. Yeah, so that brings us to Jen. I do have questions, obviously, for each of you, but I thought, Jen, if you could this is where you guys came in, is actually introducing legislation to help support the establishment of this center. So did you want to just give a little background on that to date?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So as Kay and Tim have talked a little bit about the National Academy's study coming out with all of these wonderful recommendations, Senator Hirono has been historically a huge proponent of native plants. We in Hawaii are uniquely tied to the importance of natives in our culture and in our environment. And so she, on a personal note, plants a native plant almost every time she gets back home. And so with the recommendations that came out from the study, she turned to me and said, Jen, what can we do? And so we started working with Rep. Quigley's office in the House on drafting some legislation that would establish the center. And so as was mentioned, the Department of the Interior started doing that last administration, but so you might ask, why do we need legislation for that? And the answer is that there's a lot of value to putting these efforts in statute. It makes it permanent. It makes sure that these efforts are set in stone and cannot just be taken away with the swipe of a pen or, by not allowing the funding to unfreeze, as Kay was saying. And so I sat down with my colleague in Rep. Quigley's office. I sat down with so many people that are on this conference today. This is wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being here and having these discussions. And we really started thinking about, what we could do legislatively to ensure that this center is established and that it makes sure that all of the various federal agencies are involved that should be involved, and then also respects all of the important work that's currently ongoing. So, the establishment of the center is not meant to reinvent the wheel. It is to bring together folks that are already doing all of this important work and coordinate it and make sure that all of the resources are leveraged in a way that benefits our communities all across the country. There are specific eco-regional hubs that are established, and that really gets to these local ecotypes that are needed by each community that was discussed during the last session. In Hawaii, we can't necessarily go to a business in Minnesota and say, hey, get us a bunch of big blue stem or, something like that that makes absolutely no sense in Hawaii. We really need the local plant materials for our local communities. And so we've been working very closely with this group, with the federal agencies. The bill numbers that were provided on the slide, those were from last Congress, so we haven't introduced the bill yet. We are working very hard to make sure that all of our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted with the current legislation, and then we also would really like to make it a bipartisan effort. This interagency center, this need for native plant seed is not a Democratic need. It's not a Republican need. It's a community need. And so we're just really trying to be thoughtful and make sure that we bridge our alliances, we get our partners together, we get the word out, get this socialized, because the best way that we can see this across the finish line is to make sure that it's a bipartisan effort that benefits all of our communities. So that's a lot of words, but I'm happy to answer questions and chat more later.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jen. And well, that's a big thing to become this becoming a bipartisan effort. One of the things we wanted to talk about today with the panelists and also get questions from folks is how can we get that co-sponsorship that we need for this bill? And Tim, I wanted to turn to you because I think with the current administration, a big thing, are people's minds. How do we are there other things happening in the administration? I think you and I talked about the Wildfire Commission, like other reports and things that we can look at that are building in native seed. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. But maybe first I'll check to see if I'm still sound garbled.
You sound better.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, I think Jen, you said it well. This is an American issue. This isn't something that should be very partisan. So we really are thinking about how native seed fits well, though, with the priorities of this administration in reviewing the current executive and secretarial orders. These priorities range from all things from collaborative restoration and wildlife stewardship, supporting rural economies through deregulation, reclamation following energy and mineral development, and restoration needed after timber harvesting. And then I think probably the starkest point is post-fire recovery and prevention, along with the community resilience that we're hoping to gain from that. So we especially see this alignment here. And there's both the executive orders and secretarial orders that are established through here. We've got an executive order on contributing to wildfire prevention and burned area response, and a secretarial order from the Department of Interior on accelerating post-fire recovery and building fire resilient communities. So we're actively coordinating with the wildfire experts across the department to understand their needs and determine how the Seed and Restoration Center can contribute to both wildfire prevention and post-fire recovery, and how that interacts with the need to combat invasive species as well. So, and I guess something else I wanted to highlight on that is that we understand that the keys to our success on that will be not just at the department, but understanding other federal departments that are focusing on this, and our state and tribal partners, and understanding their needs to address wildfire, understand their seed needs, addressing invasive species challenges. And we are really trying to think about our early steps that we can do to maybe improve our data systems so that we can easily communicate with all of those folks and make sure that we get that right seed at the right place at the right time. So that's really what where we're focusing a lot of our efforts right now while we're in this kind of planning phase, getting ready to implement.
Yeah, so Tim, I'm hearing some infrastructure kind of thoughts about communication and systems and tracking. Is that just across DOI, but also with other federal agencies? Because that's a big question that comes up, is how will this center coordinate with other federal agencies outside of DOI?
Yeah, I think on the wildland fire, we're ahead of the game on that. However, we haven't fully launched, and I think we're still getting our house in order. But we do recognize that there are partners at USDA, Department of Transportation, that are going to be key, but we're not quite there in terms of establishing those partnerships just yet.
Okay, great. Jen, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the vision of interagency collaboration with the center at all, if there's anything more to say than what Tim said.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tim hit the nail on the head, right? You know, USDA is doing great work, Department of Transportation, DoD, military installations make up a big part of the federal land footprint in Hawaii. And just making sure, again, like all these different agencies have their own, you know, policies and work that they're doing. And we're not trying to say, hey, this restoration center at BLM is going to tell you guys what you need to do, and you better listen up and take those marching orders. It's more, hey, we have this resource. Let's work with DoD, let's work with USDA, and make sure that we're all paddling in the right direction, in the same direction. And I think that's a big question I get is, you know, how does this integrate with all of the other work that's being done? And I think to Tim's point, like, the bill hasn't been passed yet. So a lot of these questions are outstanding, but right now the intention is very much that everybody works together because this is such a national issue. It does play such an important role in ecosystem restoration, and we just want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And that leads into the other question I think comes up is, you mentioned earlier the eco-regional hubs, and some of the questions I think are, is that just kind of federally managed hubs and data seeds, not data banks, seed banks? What is your thoughts, and what how's the plan for that, or the thinking around that, I should say?
The thinking would also be that it would be very much a partnership model. I know in Hawaii, we have our own state level seed strategy, and the thinking would be that could nicely dovetail into whatever eco-regional hub would cover Hawaii. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for various stakeholders to have a seat at the table and say, you know, these are the resources we have, these are the questions we have, and make it more of a conversation versus, you know, the federal government coming in and saying, okay, we're supplying these 5 native species, and you know, you guys just have to deal with it. I see it more as a collaboration, and I think we all would benefit from that.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. One of the other questions that often comes up is, what's the thinking around tribal engagement with the center?
Yeah, and again, you know, the tribes, they know their stuff. They know what they need. They know they have much more history with the land than we do. And so I think again, the intent is to coordinate with them and supplement and not supplant their efforts, and just making sure that, you know, the center, the eco-regional hubs will serve as a resource, and help amplify the good work that they're already doing.
Sure. Thank you. Well, one of the things you mentioned is that this really needs to be a bipartisan effort. So just interested from the panelists, Kay or Jen or Tim, just what are some of the messaging? I think, Tim, you mentioned some of it already, especially in relation to the Wildfire Commission and other things. But what else can we do to message this and educate our legislators, but also our networks about how this is really a bipartisan effort, and examples about things that will help either economically or disaster wise? I don't know, Kay, do you want to start that off? Thanks.
Yeah, happy to. You know, I'm happy to talk about this issue to anybody. I do believe that it is nonpartisan. But I would say, know your audience, know who you're talking to, know what their values are, know what's important to them. So is it a part, you know, if you're talking to a member of Congress, are they in a part of the world that floods a lot or burns a lot or has problems with invasive species? Those are all arguments for the need for American seed. I might lean into saying something about restoring iconic American landscapes is important for tourism. It's important for outdoor recreation. It supports fish and games species. It supports pollinators that keep your grocery bills lower. And then if I'm talking about American seed and the need for it in these restorations, I might talk about it's a unique product that can't be outsourced. It produces income for farmers, for rural businesses. And I might also talk about how this interagency approach is really supporting government efficiency. It's not a bunch of people doing the same thing in different ways in each agency or each bureau. It is really trying to make our government more efficient. So, know who you're talking to and what they value, because if you can catch their attention on that, you're much more likely to get their support.
Sorry, couldn't find my mute button. Maybe I can add a little bit about how I'm working to communicate on this. It's trying to find ways to talk about efficiency and improving that. Not to say that work right now is inefficient, but it is not necessarily coordinated at the level where we could gain some opportunities to trade seed more actively, to identify collection protocols that might be developed from one entity and then developed in another place. Trying to find those, and not just within the government, but we know that exists externally to us. Also, describing how we could improve our communication. I had one senior official in a meeting recently that mentioned earlier in his career they needed a specific seed for a project. It was important to them. They couldn't find it. They looked all over the place. Ended up with a substitute. Shortly after they received it, they found out that just in the next state over, there was a plethora of that seed, and there wasn't a database that spoke to each other. So trying to explain how we can utilize technology, utilize doing something that's, I don't know, maybe this is a bureaucratic thing that we have to deal with, but we write departmental manual chapters on how we interact. And if that could be done at the department level instead of each bureau having to do that, we're taking away that administrative burden at the bureau level and allowing that work to be done to do all of the good work towards maintaining our native seed supply chain. So those are some of the things that I'm trying to communicate when I have the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think, Tim, that emphasis on efficiency really resonates, especially with policymakers. We are currently in fly-in season, which means that we're thinking about FY 2027 appropriations right now. And, we get a lot of meetings from a lot of people saying, fund our program. And if we hear from 30 different groups wanting to fund a native plant program, we're going to say, wait a minute, why are you wanting 30 different pots of funding to do the same thing and achieve the same outcome? And I think, this is just an example of we're trying to streamline things. We're trying to make efforts efficient. We've seen the need. We have the National Academy's report with its recommendations in front of us. The smart experts have made these recommendations. The agency's already started down this path. They're in the planning phase. So there has been money put towards this effort already. So this bill really is just to make sure that vision is realized and that we can make these efficiency improvements across the federal family. I think, speaking from working in a policymaker's office, Kay, you're right. Know your audience, know what's going to resonate with that member of Congress, but also be a constituent in their state and have personal stories. We all get bombarded with here's some facts, here's some slides, here's, whatever. But if you can come to me and say, you know what? during the Lahaina fire, we lost a lot of ground cover, and NRCS did not have native plant materials. And in Hawaii, invasive species often fuel these fires, and that is unacceptable. We needed native plant materials. That's going to resonate with the members and their staff versus someone from Maine coming to talk to me about, their issues. Sure, I'll be sympathetic, but it just resonates differently when you're a constituent and you have stories from that state. So I would very much encourage that communication as well.
Great, thank you. I think we should hit some of the questions that are coming up in the Q&A there. Morgan, did you want to facilitate that, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I can start asking them and just chime in and jump in with the answers.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I've organized them by most liked, and we have one from Donna with the USFS right now. And can agencies outside DOI be part of the statute language, or are there other ways we can engage and be a part of this endeavor?
So I can jump in and say right now in the bill language, USDA is noted as a federal interagency partner.
Great, thank you.
Easy.
Okay, well, the next one from Kevin. Beyond coordination within the federal agencies, how will the center coordinate with states? Is the federal government really flexible enough to be responsive to restoration needs, especially wildfire? How does it accommodate for current political limitations, e.g. shutdowns?
Well, I guess maybe I can jump in on that one. Yeah, I mean, the way we kind of look at ourselves is that we're not going to be here it is, here's how it must be done. You must utilize this seed, here's how we're collecting it. More, what resources can we provide so that we can all collaborate together? That's at least the approach that we're coming at this with. We also understand that what may work in Nevada will likely not work in Massachusetts or Georgia, and so we're trying to find a way that we can come up with a toolkit so that wherever we are working, those people who are have the passion, have the need, have the funds available, we can help to facilitate that rather than be the answer to it. To the point about shutdowns and political limitations, I think that kind of aligns with this, is that we understand that we can't always be the one that is there to answer it. We also are limited in our staff. We don't have the number of people that we need to be able to do what we're trying to do ourselves. So by finding ways that we're setting up whoever is able to do this for success, that is the approach we're trying to take.
Great. I think I saw someone else maybe unmute to answer that, but if not, I can move on. All right. The next one, are Forest Service lands also being considered as a seed source? I only saw BLM on your list. There are widespread efforts to increase and diversify our seed supply. Infrastructure exists to support this, and many botanists are collecting seed annually for direct sow, increase in plant plug production.
Well, I'll just go back and say that Forest Service is part of USDA, and USDA is explicitly listed as a federal interagency partner. I will say early on in the drafting of the bill, we did receive Forest Service technical assistance. And so the bill text is written in such a way that we try to make sure that the definitions and the wording works not only for BLM, broader DOI, but also for the Forest Service. So yes, I would imagine that the Forest Service lands would be an important component of this effort.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, I think some of these questions came in before some of the other conversation. So then the next question that I'm seeing is, does the bill include new FTE to support this work? or is this expected to be stood up with current staffing levels?
So ideally, in an ideal world, if I had my own way, this bill would be passed with a very large amount of appropriations to make sure that Tim and his team can do what they need to do. The political climate right now isn't uh, interested in providing a lot of money for efforts. And so, I think we're looking at a variety of opportunities for passing this bill. It may be that we have to pass the bill with no funding, recognizing that Tim and his team need to eat. And then we'll have to go back and ask for appropriations later. Or maybe the stars will align. We'll get a Republican co-sponsor that says, yeah, let's give it $100 million per year. That'd be great. And then, folks can have the resources they need, but it's just a matter of negotiations and what vehicles we could potentially attach the bill to. So would love to have FTEs, but we also are cognizant of the reality right now. Sorry, Tim.
It's hard out there for full-time employment. um I don't see any like current other questions. I do see, Robin Schoen added the assessment of native seeds and capacity for their supply final report link. But then I do want to just bring it to the chat a little bit, where people were talking about the communication tips and how valuable those are. And I think like that's kind of been a theme in different ways that we've been talking about during this conference. And so I just wanted to touch on that and like, yes, how important and valuable that is. Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, no, I just want to add. So that's one of the things the working group is working on. We've actually created a couple of fact sheets. And the other question we get is that this is one piece of legislation that's referring to native seed. And it's also important to bring up native plant and seed production and some other legislations. Because when we go and ask our affiliates, for example, I'm just going to share, they're like, we can advocate for this, we can educate our legislatures around this, but we're also advocating for these other acts. So just to kind of get a sense of what else is out there. Is that showing like the other?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there's the Native American Seeds Act, there's the Recovering America's Wildlife Act, there's the Farm Bill as well, and Native Seeds within North American Grasslands Conservation Act. This is not inclusive of everything, but these are some that really get to restoration and wildlife. So again, obviously we are looking at it from that lens as an organization, but the working group itself is developing different kinds of fact sheets and talking points that we can share. And if you're interested in knowing more about this native seed working group, please reach out to us. I think we just got another question.
Yeah, it looks like we have two more questions now.
Okay.
From Felicia, how do we make sure that unique ecosystems like Hawaii are better supported and represented in the future? I feel that places like Hawaii are often left out.
Thank you for seeing us. No, I think through bills like this that recognize that, when you're working on national legislation, you can't just have a cookie cutter answer. You need to have built in these opportunities to tailor the work to specific communities. And a lot of the work that I do is to let people know that a lot of things don't fit Hawaii. And I'm sure Hawaii is not the only place. A lot of things don't fit Alaska. A lot of things don't fit Northeast Maine. And I think by working with experts, like many people in today's meeting, I think with taking scientific reports, we get types of legislation such as this that are really tailored towards local communities. And I think that's how we can better represent those unique needs going forward, is just to make sure that there is flexibility. The federal government is notoriously inflexible, but making sure that we're putting in as many flexibilities as we can to make sure that the solutions are right for each community.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. That's wonderful. And then Elon has a question about how can folks in areas with low federal land area help?
So maybe I'll start on that one because I'm also in an area without a lot of federal land. I'm in Chicago. And we have just developed with a whole host of partners a Midwest native seed network. And so we are doing a lot of the same type of work that is being led by BLM and others in Western states, but the makeup of those networks look a little different in the Midwest and Eastern states. So the primary seed buyers, here in Illinois aren't federal landowners. They're probably state or even county level agencies. They are people doing CRP on farmland. And so our network involves all of those folks and nonprofits and seed producers and so forth.
Great. Anyone else want to chime in? Mary?
I would just add, I mean, I think it's important to educate your legislators, regardless of where you live, on this need, because this is going to open the door and set a precedent for raising the awareness of the need for the native seed and plant supply overall, which is not only for the federal landscape, but also for all this other restoration that people are doing privately, people are doing in their backyards. I mean, it's such a significant need and volume. And I don't think we've really been able to assess that because it's so intricate and there's so many pockets of people doing it outside of the federal landscape. It's a much bigger demand. So I think educating legislators on the need for the center and the need for native seed support and legislation overall, no matter what state you're in or what area you're in, is really key.
And I would just quickly add, a lot of times the federal government can kind of serve as the model or the demand signal. And I have an example in Hawaii where I love Hawaii Department of Transportation. They're great people. They'll come in, they'll build a road, their machinery will carry seeds, and then they'll leave, and all these albizia pop up. And then the albizia fall down. And if they had just had direction to go back in and seed with some natives, if they had supply to go back in and seed with some natives, if they saw, hey, Department of Transportation does this, maybe we should do this as well. It may have a different outcome. So I wouldn't say, hey, we don't have a lot of federal land, so this doesn't really apply to us. I think there's a lot of domino effects that will likely happen. And then we don't get as many albizia.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll just add, this kind of reflects on the last couple of questions, is that we see one of our biggest opportunities, biggest priorities, as well as our biggest challenges, us establishing these eco-regional hubs and thinking that through and how that works for every different part of our country. And that I think Jen said it well, that the federal government can serve as the model, but then we can also serve as the way to provide some resources so that those who are seeking to collaborate around that have maybe an easier path towards doing that.
That's excellent. I want to lift up what Stephanie also mentioned in the chat, because I think that's a really important point, that areas without federal land also still experience natural disasters and need native seeds and vegetations in those places make it more resilient and help them recover. And I think that's a really key theme in all of this. So thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah,
covered everything.
I mean, there's a lot of people in the chat saying thank you and thank you for all the kind of leadership. We don't have to end now. I'm just wanting to read this out. But and thank you for Senator Hirano and things that you've done, Jen and Tim and Kay and Mary. So all the interagency seed folks. This is such important legislation. So let's see. I think Kelly also said, for anyone curious, from Fish and Wildlife Service headquarters team, the Plant Conservation Alliance, which developed the National Seed Strategy, currently works across 17 federal agencies and with partners to implement the strategy. The PCA federal liaisons to DOI bureaus participate with the effort led by DOI ORDA. PCA also has a multi-departmental working group that coordinates to implement the seed strategy, which supports broader federal coordination. So just wanted to shout.
Thank you. That was my last point, was to bring up the Plant Conservation Alliance. So thank you, Kelly. And the other piece of the Plant Conservation Alliance is over 400, I believe, non-federal cooperating organizations, which we and many of the folks on this advocacy group are on. So it's a really amazing network. So thank you so much. Oh, I think we just got another question. Thank you, Kelly. Go.
Okay, yeah, this is a long one from Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
You might want to look. Is there discussion of seed network help involvement for county and municipal public agencies? Thousands of acres of grassland and forested foothills of habitat along the Colorado Front Range and a demand for local ecotype native seed. In my agency, we increase seed with seed companies like BFI, and we used to be able to contract with the USDA Plant Materials Center like Las Lunas, which enabled us to increase warm season grass species. That's no longer a possibility due to USDA changes in Plant Materials Center focus several years ago. Private seed growers in our area are limited by water availability and consistent demand for seed. Could this national policy and seed source development effort also serve local agencies? Or is the theory that this effort will somehow trickle down from the state level, which doesn't seem to be occurring yet in Colorado? And if you need to read it, it's in the Q&A.
Okay.
I think if we go back to that circle that was on the slide very early on, that that what we're envisioning here is federally led, but it will lead to a more robust seed pipeline availability for everyone. And as I mentioned, here in Illinois, those are largely county and municipal agencies doing that kind of restoration work. And so, again, I think they're tightly coupled. And if we can get this working on the federal level, we'll see it work for all of us.
I don't see anything else coming in. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tim and Kay and Jen, for being on this panel. And again, thanks to Morgan and Alexis for a great conference.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Great speaking with y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sure, like, if anyone else wants to get in touch with you all, we do have one more question. We still have like a few minutes if you want to keep going.
Oh, great. Okay. Jen, are you good time-wise?
Yeah, I'm home today, so.
All right, thanks. Okay, great.
Yeah, and yeah, people are loving the work that you're doing. But from Elon, how did you find out who your biggest buyers are in the state?
Oh, so I was just speculating based on who I know is doing large scale restoration. I don't have good data on how much each agency purchases in our state.
That's that's something, that'd be something to I guess, if we have a center that's coordinating things, could be looking at that, maybe doing an inventory. I think that would be a good use of the center. But I think that is a challenge, to have a coordinating body in place where this is a priority to answer those kinds of questions and investigate that.
That might see a seed dashboard in your future.
Yeah.
Dashboards, I live for dashboards, so I can't wait.
Nice. Well, I know, I'm sure people will have more questions or want to be involved in some way. And I think you've presented, some good options and how to get in contact with you all and um, how to help where they are as well. So, yeah, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions, or if you want to talk about how to talk to members of Congress, we're people too. So please don't hesitate to reach out. These are important conversations to have.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Those were two really interesting and informative and great perspectives on those two panels that we had at the end of the day. And if you are still with us, thanks for sticking around to the very end. We know it's been a super packed, full 2 days, and I really just have a few quick announcements or just kind of a piece of information and then a little bit of information about our upcoming Portland conference and our schedule with abstracts. So just so everyone knows, this platform, this Whova platform for this event will be available for 3 months. So you can have access to the Q&A if you want to go back and ask more questions, or if you are a speaker and want to answer the questions, you can still view the community boards. We set up a survey today and would love to get your feedback on this event as well as some thoughts for our upcoming events. And then everything else that is in Whova is available as well. We did record all of the presentations. Most of them will be available on our YouTube channel, the Institute for Applied Ecology's YouTube channel, later this spring. We have other conference recordings up there right now if you're interested in seeing some of that past content. And then again, yes, just please provide some feedback to help us make the conference better in the future. And here are our announcements about, oh, I thought I turned the transition off. Let's see. Maybe I can just pause this. Well, maybe it'll just stay. Okay. Nope. So we okay, so we're diving right into gathering content for the next in-person conference. We will open special session abstracts on March 9th, so just in about a week and a half. And so these are for symposia and workshops specifically. And then in early April, on April 6th, we will open abstracts for individual and poster presentations. We'll close the special session abstracts in mid-April, and the individual and poster presentations will close in towards the end of June. And then we hope to open early bird registration in early August. So at this point, we will have a draft program put together with symposia, workshops, and field trips. And more details will be released throughout the spring and summer, and we hope you'll be able to join us. So just wanted to extend a huge thank you again to our sponsors, to our exhibitors, and of course to all the attendees. We couldn't do this event without you and your interest, and your passion and your experience, and desire to share all of that through all the presentations. So thank you so much, and we hope you have a lovely rest of your week and a great spring and field season coming up. So thank you. I'll keep this on for just a little bit longer for folks writing in the chat. We'll save the chats and upload them into Whova today or tomorrow. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you again so much, everyone. See you next year in Portland.